fellow collectors, and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we are taking a look at the Scorponok Strike Battle Set from the brand new Transformers Cyberworld line from Hasbro. So I don't really know why they call it a Strike Battle Set. To me, if anything, it's just a large figure or a playset maybe. Strike Battle, so they just love to use these weird buzzwords, but I'm really excited to check this out. So it's a larger figure, obviously the largest one in the line so far. He has a robot mode and a scorpion mode, but he's also kind of like a base slash playset for the smaller figures since there's such a huge size difference. So color scheme I think is really fun. I also think this is kind of neat because it's obviously, you know, taking inspiration from G1 Scorponok, but also it's kind of taking a little bit of the head design and the color scheme from Energon Scorponok, and I think that's really fun. So you're getting kind of a cool, like, hodgepodge of his different iterations here, which I think is kind of neat. Really cool artwork of the robot mode and the scorpion mode here on the side. I just found this at my local Target. They're finally doing, like, the refresh of the aisles and everything, and he was $59.99. So it is a little pricey, but it is large. It has lights and sounds. So I think this is going to be a lot of fun. Still have some open packaging here. You can kind of reach in and try it by kind of pushing the head in. So it's very loud, I'll give it that. He is part of the desert biome, which makes total sense if you saw the first episode of the show. That's available on their YouTube channel now. Changes to Scorpion. I would assume so. Still says it's only 4 steps. So we'll see how that goes. But top of the box here, just again kind of showing you how the lights and sounds work. Over here on this side, some cool artwork of Scorponok here in the desert. Over here on this side, just the picture kind of wraps around, and there's a huge glare there. Picture just kind of wraps around, very similar to the picture on the other side that we just saw. And then over here on the back, showing you product shots of the robot mode and the scorpion mode, showing off the lights and sounds. Tail can have like a capture claw. You can take one of the arms off to make this really cool bike, which I think actually looks really neat. Show you the lights, the battle stations everywhere. So I'm excited for this one. I think there's going to be a lot to do with this. I think it's going to be really cool. I'm going to go ahead, get everything out of the packaging here, and we'll take a closer look. So here is Scorponok out of the package with all the pieces attached. There is definitely some assembly you need to do out of the box, but it's very simple, just kind of snapping the pieces on. I would say he's probably about 15 inches tall. He is definitely a big boy. He's also a gigantic brick. If we take a look, you can see that the legs do not move at all. This is just one giant solid brick. From the back, it is especially apparent. I'm okay with it, though, for what it does, and I'll show you more as we go, but yeah, it's going to be hard to kind of keep this guy in frame as he is so large. But right off the bat, like I said, I love the color scheme. Very indicative of Energon Scorponok, which I think is really fun. I also kind of like how the knee pads here kind of look like the top of the Decepticon symbol. I think that's kind of neat. You have these connectors here. You have the feet. Now, what I think is interesting is the feet can flip underneath, but you don't really need to do that for transformation. So, like, they just came this way in the box. And I kind of feel like the only reason they can do that is for storage in the box. I guess you could fold them underneath when you transform them, but the directions don't tell you you have to. You got some nice tank tread detail over here. You do have the scorpion legs just hanging out here on the back, and there's not really much else you can do with them. I guess if you really want, you could detach them because they're pretty easily detachable. Like, they just like pop on there. It's just like a little nub that they just pop onto, and of course they come separately in the box. So if you plan on keeping this in robot mode and you don't want the scorpion legs on there, you can very easily just pop them off. And let me move the arm out of the way so it doesn't cast so much shadow. You can see how very simply this just pops back over this, and it's very easy. Then you have the tail back here. You can see this piece here, which very much looks like a bike. That is detachable, so this can just pop off, and we'll come into play with this more a little bit later. But the tail does kind of stick out back here as well. Now, once you pop that off, if you want to spin it around, you can tuck it up a little bit. Not a ton, but a little bit. You can see that there's a range of motion there about 90 degrees. You can see it has this little like nub here, which prevents it from going any further in that direction. And then it can spin the full 360. No problems with that. You have a little handle here, which we're going to use to transform. And I apologize, there's a lot of shadow I'm trying to, he does not fit very well in the review station, but, so that's the handle. This is used for transformation, so we'll get to that a little bit later. But where this guy really shines, I think, here is the front. I absolutely love the head sculpt. I think they did such a good job with that. The paint for the eyes is great. That expression is fantastic. All that silver paint's great. If you want, you can pop the visor down. It does move. So I thought that was kind of fun. And then if you kind of push the entire head in, so you'll see the orange piece here go in. You can see the chest lights up here. You have this nice translucent green section here. I love the Decepticon symbol. That came out really great. There we go. There's the chainsaw sound. I guess it's just a circular saw, but you get it. So there's no rhyme or reason. You just get different sounds whenever you do it. I think I've gone through all of them. There may be some more. He also makes a transforming sound when you transform automatically, which is cool. Otherwise, you can't really pick what sound you get. It just kind of cycles through randomly. The arms have a swivel there, as you can see. You can also go all the way out to the side. You do have an elbow joint. These pieces where they connect can rotate all the way around. So you can see here we have a saw blade arm. This can spin. All of these pieces are detachable. So you can kind of see like where the green joints are. That's where you can kind of mix and match stuff. So you have the saw blade arm, which you can connect on here. Snap that back on. Over here, you just have kind of a typical, like, you know, scorpion pincer claw. He's holding this massive sword, which is done in this translucent green plastic. I think this looks really, really cool. I like this a lot. Just a crazy giant sword. Yeah, so he can hold that very nicely. It pegs right into that orange peg there. Otherwise, you can pop this off. The claw does open pretty far. And then go back. Some nice silver paint here on the front, but unfortunately not on the back. It feels a little hollow. You can see here. The plastic, it's a decent quality plastic. Like, it can feel a little cheap in spots, but I really don't think you're going to have any issues with it. But yeah, just in some places it feels a little hollow or like a little brittle. Not brittle's too strong of a word, but I would say it just feels like it's a slightly cheaper quality of plastic. Like, it feels kind of hollow inside. You have these two massive shoulder guns, which I'll take off so it stops casting so much shadow on his face. You can peg these in wherever you see, you know, the little pegs. There's also some here on the top of the shoulders. So if you like to peg it in right here, you can do that. The cool thing about these, I think you can also hold these, right? Like, you can peg them onto the arm like this. So if you wanted to hold it as a gun, even though he has a chainsaw or a saw hand, you can still have him hold a gun, which I think is cool. But the other cool thing about these, if I pan down, both of these transform in the same way, where they kind of lift up and become like a little turret battle station. And so then any of the smaller characters can sit on here. So like if I take Megatron, you know, he can sit in here and man this. And then wherever you attach it, he can be manning the gun. So you can, if I get down here and zoom in a little bit, you have this connector here. This can peg into the shin. And then you could have him riding around on the shin piloting the gun, which I think is kind of cool. Let me get this arm out of the way. And you can do that on either shin, or like I said, anywhere else there's a connector. So if you even wanted to connect it to the arm, like we had here previously, let me come back up, you could have him sit on the arm. Now, they don't really peg in any specific way, but if you can just balance it, like, he can sit there. The other thing is this big plate here on the front can drop down. And you can, I mean, if you want, you could literally just have someone sit on there. Or you can, of course, peg one of these. There's a spot here, here, and here. So you could peg this onto the front here. And then have him pilot it there. I don't. That sounds so weird and stops so abruptly. There we go. Get some cannon fire going. So I think that's kind of cool. I mean, that's what kind of makes him more than just a figure, more of kind of like a battle station or a base of some kind. I kind of wish he had a specific base mode, but I still think that's pretty cool. I think that's, yeah, I don't think the head moves at all. Yeah, the head doesn't move. We talked about the shoulders and the elbows. That's really all you're going to get for articulation. Everything from the waist down is just one solid chunk, with the exception of the toes rotating in that I showed you. I guess technically if you wanted, you could bring the legs in robot mode, but why would you? But you could. And then I showed you the tail on the back. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I feel like I'm missing something in terms of the robot mode, but not really. I mean, the cool thing is you really can, like I said, there's so many connector spots all over that you can peg the cannons in wherever you want. The sword, I think, is really cool. I like the saw blade arm. I think the head sculpt's great. So like I said, he's definitely a chunk, and, you know, certainly you're not buying this figure for his articulation, but he's got a lot of features to him, and he interacts with the other figures a lot, which I think is really fun. And I love the color scheme. I really do. I think this was the way to go. If they had done it in the G1 colors, I don't think it would be as fun. I don't know what it is. Just the bright colors really lend itself. I will say, though, that I think the arm articulation is pretty good. I don't really have any problems with that. It's all you get. But I do think it's pretty good. But we can transform. Kinda. Alright, so step one for transformation. Raise the arms up. That's most of it. Okay, so now you are going to take the handle here, grab a hold of this orange piece and pull it in, and then kind of let him fall forward. That's the rest of it. So now he's going to be hard to fit in frame horizontally. So the last thing you do here is you just bring the scorpion legs down. And that's pretty much it. I did like that it made the transformation sound while it, like, it, you know, when you're having it fall down. I will say it's easier, like, when you're transforming it. Like, so I'll just go back up real quick. So it makes the sound again, which is cool. Okay. There we go. If you can have two hands, like, to kind of push this and then kind of, like, help the feet along, it does help. You have to keep that pushed in the whole time, though. Otherwise, it'll start to get stuck at, like, the halfway. It kind of ratchets halfway, and then it has to go the second half of the way. So you have to make sure that you keep that held down the whole time. But you can see in the back here, you got the treads. This piece, which I feel like, even though this is really just, you know, how it worked out because it normally sits on this, I feel like you could kind of position some characters back here. I almost kind of wish there was somewhere I could, like, if they would have just put a little peg in here, like, I would have considered maybe putting one of the cannons on the back here, but unfortunately there's just not really anything for, like, a connection spot, and I really don't think it would compromise anything, like, if they just had put a little peg hole just right here or here, so that you could then, like, you know, pop a cannon back here, because I feel like you have so much room back here that's just not being utilized. I mean, you could definitely sit a character back here, but I wish I could put an accessory. I mean, actually, I guess there's a connection right here that I just missed, so you can peg this in here, which is okay, and then you could still do this, but I kind of would have rather had the two, like, you know, for symmetry down here, but at least it does have this. I missed it because I put Skybite on there right away, but that is kind of cool. So now if we move up a little bit, we have the legs. They don't do anything. They're just there to, you know, complete the, pretend that this brick is a scorpion. So we have the tail, which is cool. Like I said, it can't go any further forward, but it can go back. Now, you have a couple options here. If I, well, of course, let me knock the camera first. Let me move this. So, you have this piece, which kind of looks like a bike, so we'll pop this back on. And then you can connect stuff into here. So, the one thing you can do, which I think is really cool, you can take this giant sword and put that in there to be like his stinger. Now, again, I wish that this could go a little bit further down so it could kind of like try to stab the area in the front, because assumingly that's where the smaller robots would be. So I would love for that to be able to go a little bit further. Unfortunately, not the case. But that's that. You can also, on the packaging, it shows like, you know, doing like a capture claw with this. So now you might be saying to yourself, hold on, how's that going to connect? This can actually flip around. I can never remember which way it goes. I think it goes this way. Oh, it's going to be easier if I just... There we go. Yeah, this goes around, and then now it has the other connector. So I think that's really cool. It's got both connectors so that you can literally connect anything to this, which I think is cool. And then you can put this on here, and then he could have like a capture claw in the back. I think the packaging has it like up here. You know, like you can bend it down a little bit. It gets a little heavy. You can see that it kind of starts to drop, but you can play around with that, have it grab a character. Like, let's say it has Optimus and wants to grab him. Lift up your arm. So that's kind of cool. That works. Something like that. And then by the same token, if you wanted to put the saw blade arm on here, you could do that as well. Have them start attacking something with saw blade. So I think that's cool. A lot of options, a lot of interchangeability there. I'm going to go ahead and just take this off as well for now. You also just have a lot of space up here. So you could attach another one of the cannons here to this space if you want something like that. Or you could literally just have, you know, if you have like the tail connection stuff detached, you could just have characters hang out up here. There's a lot of just empty space in this area. There's also connection points here and here. So if you wanted to do the two cannons, you could. So you have a lot of options there. You could also, of course, just put them here, which is, I think, where they're supposed to go if they're not being utilized by anything else. Like in terms of the transformation, that's just where they're naturally supposed to go. Which I think looks pretty cool. I like the look of that. I also, it's very minuscule detail, but I do like the like scorpion head with those red eyes that they kind of put on the back of Scorponok's head. So you have, you know, the mandibles working here. You got the red eyes to kind of give you like the illusion of a scorpion head. I think that's kind of cool. And you can still... Now you get some really creepy scorpion sounds. Come on, I want to hear the creepy sound again. There it is. So yeah, I think that's cool. I think like you can obviously tell what mode it's in because of the orientation. There's obviously something inside that gets triggered. I think that's really cool. I kind of like the sounds for the Scorpion mode better than the robot mode, if I'm being honest. I think that's kind of fun. So yeah, like I said, I like it. It's definitely not a marvel of modern engineering, but it is fun. It's just a silly, big, goofy, fun toy. I mean, it's a scorpion with an obvious bike as its tail. It makes no sense, but you can put a giant sword blade on the end of it, because of course, why wouldn't you? And that is cool. I mean, that's just cool. So I think that's pretty much everything to show you for the Scorpion mode. I'm really trying not to miss anything. Like I said, it's kind of the same four components. You know, you have the two arms, you have the two cannons, you have the sword, you have the bike thing, but you can just mix and match them and arrange them pretty much however you want. And I think that's really the strength of this. It gives you a lot of options for play and posability and configuration, and, you know, well, not posability of the robot, but I'm saying you can mix and match all these things and it gives you a lot of options. And I think that's really neat. So the last thing I really wanted to dive into is like the little bike. I do like how it comes with little handlebars. I think that's really neat. Obviously, we've seen the sword already connected in here as part of the tail. I'm going to go ahead and just take that off for a second, just so we can actually take a look. Like, they really did not try to hide the fact that this is supposed to be a bike. It looks good. I think the molding in here is pretty great. It's very hollow underneath, which is a bit of a bummer. But I love how they have this, has the connector for both things so that there's nothing you can attach to this. So I think it's kind of cool. I'm going to go ahead and bring in, I guess we'll use Optimus, even though I don't think he'd be teaming up with Scorponok anytime soon. But you can pop him on here, and then you can actually peg the handlebars into the hands. So we will do that. And then just kind of like tuck his legs as close as we can. It's not going to be the best, but yeah, it's about as far down as he can go. But anyway, I think that's cool. You know, he can actually ride it. He's got the handlebars. The legs fit fairly decently on the side there. And like I said, you can connect anything to this. So we've already seen the sword. This is the one that they show on the packaging. I have to switch this around. But you know, this giant saw blade on the front. I'll be honest, this is kind of awesome. I think this is really cool. This is giving me like Kaneda's bike from Akira vibes, or even like almost like a swoop bike from Star Wars or something. Like, I can just hear like Duel of the Fates over this, and it's like Anakin, you know, going to the Tusken Raider village. Like, that's the vibes I'm getting from this. It's really cool. I think this looks awesome. I really like this a lot. Now, of course, you can connect any of the other things as well. So if we wanted to, for some reason, connect the ridiculously giant grasping claw hand, you could. You know, if you're just driving at somebody with a giant grasping claw, and then you could rotate it and actually grab a hold of them and then fly away with them. So, you know, the possibilities are endless in terms of what we can connect. If we switch this back around, like so, we could connect one of the guns. So if you just want some extra firepower, you could certainly do that. You could even still have this come up and have another character right on here. So let's see who's available. Megatron. You could even do something like that, where you have one guy driving it, one guy here on the cannon. And that's kind of cool. So I think this is really fun. Like I said, it's just, there's a lot of different things you can do. I wanted to just really highlight the bike because I hadn't shown anybody like actually riding it. And they went to the trouble of giving us these goofy little handlebar pieces, which make sure you don't lose these in the packaging. They're like tied to the side of the box inside. Don't lose them. I mean, they're snug. Like, once they're on there, they're on there. I don't think they're going to fall off. I don't think you're going to lose them, but you might forget to take them out of the box. But yeah, this little bike is just kind of fun. I like it. So if I had to write a tagline for Scorponok, I think it would just be big, stupid fun. Because that's really what he is. He's by no means going to win any kind of awards for posability, articulation, even paint applications. I mean, there's some. They're decent, but of course there could be more. Plastic quality, like I said, it's fine. It's not the best they've ever done, but I think the tolerances are there. It's just big, stupid fun, and I feel like that just kind of encompasses the whole Cyberworld toy line in its entirety right now. Like, if you can just kind of put the collector side of your brain over there and not worry about it for right now, these can be really enjoyable. I really think so. I mean, he's a giant brick. I mean, he's got decent articulation in the arms, and that's it. Nothing else moves. I guess technically the legs can swivel. But I mean, honestly, this guy, he's got lights and sounds. I think they're pretty fun. I like that it does the transformation sound automatically when you go back and forth. I like the use of the translucent plastic. I like the gimmicks where all the arms are interchangeable and you have the gun turrets that you can mount all over the place, and it kind of turns them into like a big playset for the smaller figures. I love the colors. You know, there's the big bright colors. The decision to kind of lean more into his Energon likeness than his G1 likeness, I think, was actually a brilliant idea in this case. Some people might think the $60 is a lot for it, but it is a big, sizable toy. It's got lights and sounds. It's got a lot of, you know, accessories and interchangeable parts. So I feel like the value's there. If you want to wait for a sale, totally valid as well. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Like I said, you really just have to go into this toy line with the right mindset. And if you do, I think it can be a lot of fun. I mean, I could easily trash this thing and say, oh, you know, there's no leg articulation. It's a brick. It can't move. It can't. But it's like, but we know that going in. Just know that going in, and then just focus on the fun, positive parts of it, of which I think there are a lot. So I definitely recommend this one. Let's put it this way. If you've been enjoying Cyberworld so far, I definitely recommend this. This is kind of the culmination of this first wave. It's kind of the big figure, the play set, whatever you want to look at it as. There's a lot of fun. And if you have the other smaller figures, you're going to get a lot more out of this because it's meant to interact with them. If you just want like a big Scorponok, then you're better off trying to track down the reissue of the Titans Return one or whatever that was, Earthrise, whenever they did Scorponok in the like G1 collector line. This is not for that. This is just a big, goofy toy that I just think is a ton of fun. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And as always, thanks so much for watching.